Hey guys, welcome to another video of MaxiAspie, and today guys we'll be doing an autistic Q&A. So guys, just before the pandemic I'd done a sit down interview and a speech at Oxford Brookes University. While at Oxford Brookes University, during my speech a hat went round the room and loads of questions people wrote on pieces of paper were then passed to the front, where I answered I think 2 questions. However, what I do every year is I keep the questions and then I always promise to do a Q&A video and reply to all those questions. However, with the pandemic and everything going on, and then working on the Autism Connection series not long after that, it just seemed to slip by. However, I've always kept the questions and I haven't seen any of the questions until today. So guys, today I'll be answering the Oxford Brookes University's questions that they asked to me on the day, which I never read, which I put away and now I've just found. So question number 1, what sort of things are you discussing with Parliament and how much change or support are you seeing? So the sort of things I'll be discussing at Parliament are mainly around employment and getting people into full-time work. Now obviously with the pandemic it's probably a lot worse than what it ever was. Not that it was great in the first place, but only 16% of people in full-time work with autism. That hasn't changed in 10 years. With the pandemic, people losing their jobs and their positions, it's probably a lot worse. A lot of the conversations I had with them was around creating a system which would support and help people get into full-time work, and also bring awareness, knowledge and understanding to employers around autism. The support I've seen, however, I think government is always busy, and I think sometimes I feel we are not prioritised in the way that we should be. They hear a number and they just think it's a number, and it's another number and another issue that they got to look at one point. So not that I don't think that they try, I think they do, and there's a lot of things that I feel discourage and actually make it harder for autistic people. Things like cutting people's PIP money, things like not getting the care or support that they deserve. And these are all things that government can change, and all things that government could help with, which they don't. And I don't know if that's because they don't care, I don't know if that's because they don't have the time, I don't know if it's because they just don't understand. But all 3 of them, they need to. They need to understand, they need to care, and they need to have more time to help people. At the end of the day, that's the government's job and they should be doing that. So in terms of have they been doing that, I don't think enough. I think you get the odd politician and the odd MP that actually shows that they care instead of just saying that they do. And I think those are the people that really make a difference to the community instead of people that just talk about it all the time. When and how did you develop the confidence to public speak? I would say it was when I was in school. So I was made chairman of the school council, and my school was a special educational needs school where people had a varied amount of conditions and things going on in their lives, to the point where some people just went through traumatic and horrible experiences and were very angry and very confused and very upset by what they went through. And what I noticed was every time they made a school council announcement, the teacher would do it, and no one would really be interested in what the teacher said. So I made a suggestion at the time that maybe I'd do assembly for the school council, and every 2 weeks I do a speech. And obviously doing that in front of people that you're in a class with, people that you might muck about with and have a laugh with, was probably never a good idea. Now, the majority of the people did listen, and the majority of the people did have the respect just to kind of acknowledge me and listen to me. However, there were times I was heckled, and there were times where I thought, is someone just going to get up and punch me, sort of thing, because they don't like what I'm saying or they don't like what I'm going to do. And now the worst kind of situation would be if someone doesn't like my public speaking and they just walk away and they're not happy, or they can just walk out the room. As beforehand, I did really feel like, you know, if I say the wrong thing ever so slightly, someone's going to get up and hit me, sort of thing. So that's when I first developed my confidence of public speaking. And that's not to say I don't get nervous about it now, because I think you're always a bit nervous, but I think over the years I've just found it easier to mask and hide it better. In primary school, did you feel you needed a TA? Did this make you feel reliant on an adult, or did you feel that this was something that assisted you? Would you have wanted more help day to day from the teacher. I probably didn't feel that I needed a TA, but it's not really about how I felt. It was probably more on what I needed. You know, I think if you asked anyone if they needed support or needed help, some people don't like to admit that they need help, and I was probably one of those people. So I probably would have said I don't need a TA, but that's not to say that I didn't need one. And when I did want a TA, you know, that is when I needed a TA. I think I was very aware when I needed one, when I didn't, but that was only when I went to secondary school. When I was in primary, it didn't really actually affect me as much having a TA, because for me it was sort of normal at that stage. It's only as you get older and more people start to twig why you've got a TA and no one else has, and you're old enough also to make that sort of assessment, then you start actually feeling that I don't want a TA and I don't need one. So when I went to secondary school, I definitely didn't want a TA, because I didn't want someone to have a reason to pick on me, and that sort of, I felt, put a target on my back, which is what I didn't want. But I'd say that majority of the time in primary school, yeah, I do wish that the teachers got more involved and spoke to the TAs more, because I feel it would have helped my progression. Instead, I had one teacher that turned around to my mum and said, no, he's not autistic, he's just naughty. And that doesn't help. But then you've got a TA in there who's really supportive, who really helps you, and then you've got a teacher that just thinks you're naughty. And that can be really difficult. And I felt that a lot in primary school, that a lot of the TAs got it, but a lot of the teachers didn't. There was only really one main teacher that really got it in that school, and it was when I was in year 5. And she was excellent. And then I went to another classroom and didn't understand it as well. When I went to secondary school, the same thing. The communication between the ASD unit, which I was in, and the communication between the main school was awful. They didn't even know I had autism. They didn't even know if I was in the LSU unit or in the ASD unit, learning support unit, or autism spectrum disorder unit. And there was no communication, and I didn't get the help that I needed, which was why I was slowly kicked out of school when I shouldn't have been. I just needed help going to classes because I was getting bullied and I had self-confidence issues, and I just wanted to fit in, and they didn't help with that. So yeah, I think it did make me feel more reliant on an adult. As I got older, I didn't want to be reliant on an adult, which is why I didn't want a TA in secondary school. I felt it did assist me for some points, but also, especially when I hit secondary school, I don't think it's assisted me whatsoever. That doesn't mean it can't, I just think there's better ways and better things that can be done to support that person without making them feel uncomfortable. How did you find writing at school, and what got you interested and engaged with it? Writing, I always sort of knew that I needed to know, because it's obviously a key thing that you want to leave school with. You know, my writing is not brilliant, you know, my handwriting is not great whatsoever, but I think the way I use words and the way I present myself is good, and I can articulate things very well. Sometimes I can't, sometimes I'm terrible at it, and people sort of go, what's he mean? And I get words wrong, and I get words confused, I get spellings confused, and it can become still an issue to this day. But writing was just something that I really needed and wanted to learn, and I think what made me interested in it was I liked sort of writing drama, murder, mystery sort of stories, which I felt really helped, and it made me interested. And you know, you sort of watch programmes like EastEnders and Coronation Street, and then also you watch wrestling over the years, and you're interested in the writing and what direction they're going with it, and it also makes you want to be able to write and put your ideas to pen and paper. And I think that was what really got me interested in writing. How do teachers build trust with individuals so they can work effectively together? Now, I think it's really difficult for teachers, I really do, because you're there to educate, but at the same time it's very hard to educate if you don't have that trust with that individual. But I think it's really key just to let them know that you are there for them, you're not there to judge, and that you can also be a friend and a teacher. Also, it's important to set boundaries and know what lines you can and can't cross. Of course it is, but the best relationships I had with teachers were the ones that I felt were my friends, the ones that I felt I wasn't going to judge, and the ones that I could just talk to. And I could talk to them because they made that very apparent that you could talk to them. And I think if you've got that relationship with your pupil, with your students, it can really help. It makes them want to learn, makes them respect you and not want to disrupt or throw you off what you're teaching, and when someone else is also having issues, it makes them want to help their peer or help you help them, and it's just a happy environment all round. So ways of building that trust is just having those conversations with them, having conversations with the parents, you know, sitting down, making time for not just academic lessons or activities, but also just playing a simple game of chess or playing a simple game of football out in the pitch, or you know, getting involved in their drama even though you're an English teacher, or all of these things. You know, it makes them know that someone cares about them, and if you can send that message, they'll be a lot more open to you, and they want that relationship and want to be able to talk to you about anything. But again, I know that worked for me, and I know that's why I've got the relationship I've got with a lot of my teachers today, including Mr. John. So again, thank you, Mr. John, for being that teacher. How can teachers better recognise autistic traits for children in their class? I think it's very hard for even doctors to diagnose autism, because once you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. And it's not so much looking at the traits, it's more looking about the person and how their autism is affecting them. For instance, I couldn't talk till I was 6. That was one way my autism affected me. I wasn't good at writing. That's one way my autism affected me. I didn't cope well with loud noises, and when I went to supermarkets I would quite frequently have a meltdown. That's how my autism affected me. So it's really pinpointing where their autism affects them. If you think that they've got autism and you think they display traits, there are traits of autism, like does so and so look him in the eye, or does he show empathy, but we all know over the years that I've met really empathetic autistic people. I've met autistic people that can look people in the eye without a problem. I know autistic people that could go out night clubbing and the noise won't bug them. So it's looking at ways their autism affects them. You know, you could see one autistic trait and that might give you, okay, well maybe this person is autistic. But then if you've got that assumption, or you think that, it's important to really recognise the areas of where it affects them, and not so much look for the stereotypes or the traits. It's more about looking at, okay, can this person do this? If so, why can't they? But again, it's important, really important, that you just support the individual. And if you think they've got a condition and you think that's definitely what they've got through all the things that you're helping them with and supporting them with, then that's when you should really ask for a diagnosis and get a diagnosis so you can offer them more help and more support. And the last question, when did you start to get intimidated by having a TA shadowing you? Was it ever okay? So I think I did answer this just in a previous question. It was a little bit differently worded, but it was really around secondary school. It was when I wanted to be liked and wanted to be cool and didn't want to be picked on, and I felt the worst thing that could have happened to me is have a TA sat next to me in secondary school, because automatically it gave everyone else the impression that there was something wrong with me. And there wasn't anything wrong with me. I had a condition, not a disorder. I had a condition, which is why we use not ASD anymore, we use ASC, because it is a condition, it's not a disorder. We're not disfigured, we're not disordered, there's nothing wrong with us. You know, we just need to be helped and understood. You know, we learn about history, we learn about science, we learn about maths, we learn about sex education, but we're not taught about mental health a lot, or conditions. And that really needs to change as well. So the time it started feeling uncomfortable for me was when other people started to notice, and people started to ask what's wrong with this person. And again, there was nothing wrong with me. I just had a condition and needed the help and support. And if people were educated with that in the first place, then those sort of thoughts wouldn't come into people's heads. But guys, sorry it's been a long video, but I just wanted to get through all those questions. They were great questions, and thank you for, again, Oxford Brookes for having me and being able to speak with John. Again, it's always an honour, and obviously getting all those questions, which I now answered. Thank you for watching, take care, goodbye for now.